But let me just start out. My name is Chelsea Kaufman, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Learn Academy, and also the founder of the software residency. And I am a career transitioner. Do we have any other career transitioners? Yeah? Excellent. I did not start my career in technology. I started my career in theater. In fact, in theater education. And theater education, I did not go to school to learn how to teach theater. I did not go up and learn how to teach improv or how to dissect scripts and things like that. I actually learned how to use theater to teach all the other things. How can we use theater to teach math? How can we use theater to teach science and history? And so as I was going through my education, I started thinking about our classrooms and what they look like and what we need to be really good teachers in the room. And you know, I learned a lot about expectations and setting up this space and creating a world where people could break things, where people could stretch themselves, where you could collaborate with other people. And you could learn all of these other different things using different techniques. And so education changed for me. And that's when 8 years ago, I founded Learn Academy. And we're a workforce development institution. We're a boot camp. We've been helping people transition their careers into web development for the last 8 years. But what I did was I took this classroom and was like, how can we make this different than what we've seen in other classrooms? How can we do something beyond just lecturing and just teaching, but really immerse people into the world? And so we created a space. We created a space that looked just like the space you were going into. The classroom felt so much like your workplace. It felt so much like the dev team. We did everything we could so that your first day in the classroom and your last day of the classroom and your first day at your new job felt the same. And it allowed you to have that, to feel comfortable in your own space, in your own beings. So we started Learn, and over the last 8 years has been amazing, and we have seen so many students come through our program. But for me, it wasn't just about that first step into the industry. I really wanted Learn to be a place that was a community that helped you throughout your career. That we wanted to be there so that we wanted to be there for that first job, for that next job, when you were thinking about learning something new or going into the next thing. So for these last few years, we've been really trying to figure out how can we help the next part in the next step. We're getting all these folks in, and there's so many great organizations out there that are bringing people into the industry. Right? We've heard from lots of them today that they're here. There are nonprofit organizations that are bringing people in. And it's amazing to see the amount of effort and work that's going into diversifying our industry. But then, what's happening next? What are we doing next? We're bringing them in. We're teaching them. We're giving them those first few things. But then, there isn't a clear path. There isn't a clear path that says, oh, this is what you learn next, or this is where you go next. And that's really hard for all these people that we've been bringing in and we've been shepherding them through this whole thing. And then we kind of let them get stuck. So we have our folks that are stuck in the middle. And it was fascinating to me. Yesterday, I came in and I was looking at the job board, and I was like, whoa, look at all those jobs. That's amazing, so great, so many opportunities. But then I go over to the more entry-level jobs, and there were 7 or 8. And it just felt like, well, wait a second. We're an industry that's here that's all based on learning. We always are in this state of constant learning, no matter what stage you're in. So we need to make sure that we're doing those things to help the people that are stuck, because that way we're then getting to those other, we're allowing them to grow in their career. We're then getting to a point where we have more senior developers. How many of you heard that there aren't enough senior developers? Yeah, it's a problem. And so today, I want to talk about what we can do to help get people to continue that growth and do it within your own company, within the groups that you're working on. Even if you are not a manager, I want you to know how you can do it for the person sitting next to you. Because that's the only way that we're going to solve the, there's not enough seniors problem, is that we have to do it together. Everyone in this room has to be a part of it together. So about 3 years ago, we started talking about a new program that we launched the pilot about a year and a half ago. It's called the Software Residency. And it gives you this, it works with companies that gives them a framework to work with middle stage developers. I'm having a hard time finding the right words for this, which I think is a common problem because does anyone know what is just developer? That's the middle? I don't know. So I'm sorry if I stumble over my words, but I think that it's about this idea that it isn't defined. It is this really ambiguous place, which then, again, goes back to they're still stuck. So we have to give them this path. And that the software residency let me kind of explore what happens if I went into a company and helped them to unstick people. What would I do? So that's where we came up with this idea. Learn it, do it, teach it. It is by far not a new idea, right? They've been doing this for hundreds of years. But what we started thinking about was, how can we take that and put it into our day-to-day and not make it so that you get this feeling of oh shoot, I need to spend 40 hours helping this new person, help teach them and things like that. And then you feel that weight and you're like, how am I going to get my job done and still do this? I can't bring on interns because it's going to take too much time away from me and from me doing the job that I need to do. And so we came up with this idea of let's shrink it down and figure out what are these things that we can be doing on a daily, hourly basis that you can be doing, like I said, with that person next to you. So I have a feeling that most of you are already doing learning and doing, right? That's probably the thing that comes, that is natural to us, especially everyone in this room, because you came into an industry that is all about learning. So you're probably used to these things, but we'll go over a few of these ideas. But the one that I really want to focus on is this idea of the teach it. So we'll get there. But let's start with learn. So learning, there are easy things that people can be doing in their day-to-day, right? You can be reading documentation, you can be looking at tutorials, you can be attending conferences and listening to people stand up here and speak at you. How many people learned something new in the last 3 days? Awesome. Anyone want to share what they learned?
Active support notifications.
What was that?
Active support notifications is a thing.
Active support notifications is a thing. Awesome. Anyone else learn anything?
I learned a bunch of new stuff about Arrow.
Arrow? Awesome.
I learned more about Postgres Explain Helper.
Perfect. Postgres?
How to go from a rescuer to a coach?
Yes. Yeah. That was amazing. Oh, sorry. Great. So we're at this conference. We're doing the thing. We're learning. I'm hopeful that we have a handful of, or even more, of early career folks here that are doing that. They're learning. Great. So there's easy ways we can bring learning into our day-to-day, right? Especially early career, you can, as a coach, you can easily point them in the right direction for that part of it. And I think that we can all make those suggestions and make it easy for that. Okay, learn it. That one's good. Do it. Great. If you're in the day-to-day, you're working, you're in it, right? You're doing the thing. But I think that one of the things that I think is important about this part of it is that we're setting up an environment where a person can actually do it. They're getting their hands dirty. They're breaking things. They're figuring things out. They have to get in there and do the work. You know, I think that a good example of how this can, look in the company is the pairing is a great example. Mobbing is a great example of doing the work, right? Like if you're pairing in your organization, you then get an opportunity to kind of do both things, right? You're learning and you're doing. You have your hands in it. You have somebody that is navigating, that is telling you what to do, and then you have the person that is doing, learning and doing, all in one action. And that's exciting to me, that you have this as an opportunity. Anyone go to workshops today? Yeah, I know you're gonna get scared to raise your hand because I'm gonna ask you then, what did we learn at workshops? What did you guys do? Anything?
How to implement type checking.
Excellent. How to implement type checking? Great. Anyone else? Get their hands dirty?
Went to the contributing open source one yesterday.
Oh, cool. How's that?
That was great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What did you do during that?
Everybody was given an issue that was pretty well scoped, and then it's like you had to clone it and read the issue, like do the work, fix it, send a PR.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was great.
that's really cool. A good sense of like collaboration and working together. I like it. Awesome. So great. We're at this conference. We're doing the things. We're learning new things. We're doing the things. We're in workshops. Hopefully you're taking the things that you're learning and you're going to do them. You're like hacking on things, trying to figure out like, how can I then use this in practice? Okay, those are the easy ones, right? Those are two of the things that I think we can easily implement in our day-to-day, that are things that are familiar to us and all of that. So the last one, teach it. So when I talk to people about this, a lot of times when they think of teaching, they think of this. I'm going to stand in front of a podium. You know, you have your teacher that's professing all of the things. They're distributing their knowledge onto you. And I think that, to me, that is not just teaching. That's a form of teaching that some people may think is helpful. And I think it is if it is integrated with other things. Because to me, teaching is really just the act of explanation. And in this scenario, when you're talking about do it, learn it, do it, teach it, you want the learner to be doing all of those things. They need to be learning, so they need to be in there, and they need to be watching the tutorials, maybe even sitting next to the person that they're pairing and just watching and observing and learning from the person that is sitting next to them. Then there's the doing. They need to have their hands on it. They need to be getting things dirty. They need to be breaking things. And then there's the teaching part. The teaching part is that they then need to be explaining it to someone else. So thinking about the things that you learned over the last 3 days, is there something that you were really excited about that you then went home and told your partner or told your coworker that you just wanted to explain to them what it was that you learned? That in itself is a sense of teaching and is helping you to solidify your skills. So things that you can be doing in the workplace are just asking those questions. asking those questions of the people around you. So we're adding in this idea of that teaching is a form of explanation. So you don't necessarily need a teacher giving you the information. You need a teacher that's going to facilitate your own learning. And so for me, one of the big things we talk about is something called the protege effect. Has anyone ever heard of the protege effect? Cool. So protege effect is basically that. It is learning through teaching. So sure, going and giving a talk on something at a conference, great way for you to learn something new. Going to a meetup and doing a lightning talk, those are things that we tell our students to do all the time. In fact, our students are required to do lightning talks as a part of the program on something that they really want to learn, because we know that that act of explanation is going to help them solidify their skills. So the protege effect can take effect at any point during your day, right? So during stand-up or during retro, making sure that the folks on your team, the ones that really need to, that need that guidance, that they're actively participating, that they are explaining, that they are talking through the problems that they are working on and that they're trying to solve. That if your senior developers are doing more talking than anyone else on the team, it's doing a disservice to the other folks on the team, because it's not giving the other folks an opportunity to learn. And some of that has to do with creating that environment where you can and you feel really comfortable talking and speaking. As a junior developer, as somebody or entry level that's coming into the industry, it can be really intimidating to speak up in that kind of a scenario. So making sure that you are creating the environment that allows them to do that is what's opening the door for their growth. So encouraging them, wanting to hear what it is that they have to say, what problem are they trying to solve, even if it's a problem that you've solved like 1,800 times already, it is still really important for them to kind of talk through it so that they can understand what it is. The idea of rubber ducking is an amazing opportunity for our students to use this little duck that we're going to teach all of the things we want to know. That a lot of our instructors, the way that we encourage them to work through problems with our students is through rubber ducking, so that they can get it all out. Most of the time, they solve all their own problems because they just need to talk things out in order to understand them. So the more that we can invite folks on our team to participate and to talk through the problems, the more you're allowing something like the protege effect to give them those opportunities to learn, because they're learning new things all the time. They're in there doing it. And then if you're adding in this third idea of teaching, then you're giving them even more opportunities to continue that growth. So stand-up, retro, pairing. We talked about pairing a little bit, mobbing. Pairing is the perfect example of all of these things happening at the same time. Folks are learning new things. They are having to explain everything that is going on so they are putting the words in their mouth and having to figure it out. You know, we talk a lot at Learn about when you're learning new languages, the best way to do it is to like move to Spain, right? And so if you are not allowing, if developers are not talking through their problems or even just explaining to you what's happening or talking through new features and things like that, that those are opportunities for them to teach. And it's just a new way of looking at it. And so the more that you can give them those opportunities, the more that they will be able to continue their growth. So the other thing that in teaching that is helpful is that you can use it as an assessment tool. And so one of the things that I think is important is that people want to know how they're doing. In school, we want to know if we're getting an A, if we're getting a B, or whatever it is. You like need that reassurance to know that you're moving in the right direction. And so it's important for us to give those things to our teammates also, because that's what's going to help them go, oh, okay, I'm on the right track. Even though I feel like I am totally lost and I don't know what I'm doing, I know that I'm moving in the right direction. And that is really important. And so you can use teaching or assessments as a way to assess, because that's going to be the best way for you to know where the holes are if you ask them to explain it. Just taking a test or writing something out or things like that doesn't actually doesn't assess for the right things. It assesses for how well they can take a test. My husband and I have this conversation all the time because he is a brilliant test taker and I am a terrible test taker, but I feel like I'm a pretty smart person. So finding ways to help them. So the way that you can do that is asking them to talk through the new feature that they're building, or whatever the task or goal is, ask them to explain it to you and see where the holes are. And not in a sense of like, I want to know what it is that you know, but without knowing where those holes are, you're not going to know where any of the gaps are, the things that they need to learn next, the things that they need to do next. So we have to be assessing folks as they're growing so that you can help fill in those gaps and point them in the right direction so that they can continue going the way that we want them to. And then the last part in teaching that I want to talk about is mentorship. Mentorship is a huge buzzword. Have you gone to a talk today that did not mention it? Because it is everywhere. And what I want to talk about has to do with letting our mid-level, our early careers be the mentors. Because they are going to learn so much from that experience. And they also know what the person next to them is going through, because they remember what it was like to not know anything. And I think that oftentimes people seek out mentors that are, I don't know, 10 years their senior or whatever it is. They've been in the field for a really long time. But I think the thing that's really important is finding somebody that is just maybe a step ahead of you. Maybe it's only 6 months ahead of you. But you then being the mentor, doing the teaching, you then get that opportunity. So allowing our folks that are more early career to be the mentors instead of being the menteed, and maybe both would be great, but them getting the opportunity to do that. So bringing on, so at Learn, we have a 3-month classroom experience and a 1-month internship. So we work with companies, we build internship programs. And one of the things that we tell the companies is that, one, you want to make sure that you're taking more than one intern. You want at least 2, because then they have each other and they're learning off of each other, they're doing these things. Sweet spot is usually around 4, but because then you get your pod going and they get their mobs and they can do all this stuff. But the thing that we talk to them about is like, we don't need to take your senior developer to like mentor them. We want folks that are really just a step above. My favorite is when we get alumni that come back and are like, I can be the mentor now, I can be the mentor. And so they bring interns, and it's the circular thing. But when you look at mentorship, I don't want to look at it just as like the senior person and the entry-level person. That it's important to look at it in other ways so that we're really looking at both sides of it. And so they get that opportunity to keep teaching. At the software residency, we partner all of our residents with a mentor. They get that opportunity and they spend their time working through their day-to-day. And then they get to spend time with alumni or in our classroom doing teaching and mentoring. And with that combination of both having that mentorship and also then being the mentor, they're able to solidify their skills even more than that. And so just to kind of go over, here are the things that I hope that you take away from this, is that when we teach, we will learn. People will continue to learn if they're given the opportunity to speak, if they're given the opportunity to explain to you, even just asking today what you learned at the workshop. If you're able to tell somebody what it is that you're learning, I promise you, you will probably remember it more than just getting that one instance from it. The assess through explanation, I think, is important because it'll give you an opportunity to think about how are you assessing your team members. How can you get them to explain themselves, explain what it is that they're working through, and then find where the holes are, because then you get to really see where the growth can go. Because without that, you don't know what it is that they don't know, and you don't know what it is they need to learn next. And then lastly is thinking about mentorship at all levels. If you're going to take on interns, don't give it to the person that just came in and is hungry for that kind of leadership opportunity, an opportunity to work with other people. They want it, and I think they'll thrive in it. They'll imposter syndrome all over the place, but with a little bit of a nudge, they will feel what you feel when you mentor folks, because they'll get to be a part of that opportunity. So I just want to close this out with a photo of my favorite teacher that has helped me grow and has helped me learn all of these different things by pushing me in all sorts of different directions. Woo, now I'm gonna cry. This is my 5-year-old daughter. And she has made me a better person. And so I'm thankful for that. And I hope that we can take the same care with our new entry-level folks coming in, with our mid-level folks, and try and help them, shepherd them into new ways by giving them these opportunities to teach and to learn and to get their hands dirty. Because those are the things they're gonna need in order to just keep going and keep moving. Because this industry is built on learning. We are all here. There's not a single person that knows everything there is to know about web development. Never. Because it's constantly changing. And that's what's so stinking exciting. So we have to have a community of people that are gonna learn and grow. And the only way we can do that is in our own companies and our own organizations, whether you are a manager, whether you just have somebody sitting next to you that you wanna help. Asking them to explain something to you will help them grow. And so anyone can do it. So thank you for hanging out with me today. Thank you for coming to this conference. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.